This is the Dollemore Daily.
Hello, welcome to the Dollemore Daily.
We're the Banks sisters.
We are still filling in for Jesse as he's settling into his new place in D.C. I'm Keisha.
I'm Courtney, and today let's hop into climate change. Listen, you might think that you actually care about climate, but you might be a climate denier.
I will speak from personal experience on this one. I recycle the most, like literally the most, me and Dad. I hug trees, I do all of that. However, when it came down to it, and you and I were trying to decide about moving out of LA, and I love LA, and I would love to be back in LA. I like to be warm, you know? But the reality is that it could fall off the face of the earth, and I am not able to come to terms with that.
It's true. I think that the most interesting and fun thing about our dynamic is that we are 8 years apart. So we're from, like, not necessarily different generations, but we've seen, I think, different things in life. And I think we've been also promised different things by different political figures within our lives. And I think that for maybe my generation, we're both the same generation. I'm sorry. But for my age, I just feel like the promises are really have weighed thin. Mm-hmm. And we just don't have time for these paper-thin promises where we can very clearly see the true result of what's happening with the climate crisis. I mean, we just lived through the reason why we couldn't film yesterday is because we had 14 inches of snow dump onto our town here in Stafford, Virginia. And it was crazy. It broke trees. People, we weren't prepared on the roadways because the day before it snowed, it was 60 degrees.
Literally not wearing a jacket.
I was wearing shorts.
I had no idea. I mean, I looked at the weather. So I was actually in Silver Springs. So I was an hour and a half away. And it was a completely different result. I was in an apartment building, so we kept power. But nowhere else lost power. And we only got like maybe 4 inches of snow where you guys got like 14 inches of snow. But
that's a smidge of a difference. What does that mean?
But what I thought was interesting was, again, what we're saying about like wearing shorts, what have you. Silver Spring was not any more prepared than Stafford was, as far as like there was no salting on the roads.
Right.
There was no kind of preparatory work done whatsoever. And even when when I did see them like trying to shovel the sidewalks or what have you, I mean, it just seemed like it was willy-nilly. There was.
It's this new thing of the fact that we got to deal with climate. It's going to be different. It's not any of the things. It's not any of the notions that we're used to. Because it was 60 degrees, I think a lot of us thought the snow's not going to stick.
Duh.
Surely the snow can't stick. Well, Listen, we were wrong. And that's the biggest thing about climate change is that these kind of experiences, these kind of events are going to be things that go against your previous, facts in your own mind, your previous notions. Mm-hmm. Whatever you know or you think you know, you don't know. Because Mother Nature can override that.
Right. And the thing is, it's accelerating so fast. So I think for me, as a person who is, very big into environmentalism, but also, as you pointed out, am like somewhat a climate denier, it's not that I'm a denier, it's just that it's hard to wrap your head around how fast it's accelerating. And the thing is, if you don't bother to watch news outside of the US, you might not realize how fast it's accelerating. But I mean, from, not only wildfires on the West Coast, but wildfires in, on other parts of the U.S.
In Siberia.
In Greece, like all of these places. Right. I mean, and then we went through the tornadoes. That was only 2 months ago.
Right.
I mean.
No, a month ago.
A month ago, right. And then, not to mention, like, there were a bunch of floods in other countries, like in Germany and India. So the thing is that if you really look at everything comprehensively, you will see that it's accelerating really fast, and we have to adapt the way that we think, and it's really hard to do. I mean, I listened to something this behavioral scientist the other day was talking about, how difficult it is for people to just wrap their mind around something has to change. And And it's not going to be easy, guys. Like,
things are going to have to change dramatically. And one of the funniest clips I think we ever covered. You can find it on our channel, but we covered this clip of Tucker Carlson talking to an environmental author.
Yeah.
It was a guy who wrote a book. Anybody can write a book. Just note that. But he talked to this guy, and they were just going on and on about how Joe Biden might enact a climate lockdown. Now, I will tell you, I would be all for that, because I think what a lot of us noticed during the pandemic when we had lockdowns is that a lot of streams cleared up, a lot of the airways cleared up. We lived in Los Angeles, you could actually see the
smog was clearing up. Yeah.
It was insane. And I think that it's not that I'm authoritarian or anything like that, but I do think that basically the way that other generations have lived was basically living until the wheels ran off. And so unfortunately, we are the ones who are going to have to buckle up and do the hard work of correcting any of this if we want any of it to slow down. And I think some of that would mean actually you can't do your frequent flyer program. You can't listen, calm down.
No offense.
Listen,
think about it.
Listen, let's all take a second, okay? Maybe we all might have some sort of restrictions about how much we are able to fly or able to travel. Personally, I'm not a person who travels. I'd like to be able to travel more, but a lot of these places are going to be gone if we don't figure out a way to tame and rein in the consumption that we have all around the world from the richest people in the world, and bringing the global aspect into
So,
it.
I mean, what's so interesting is that, COP26 was also only, 2 months ago or what have you. It was very recent, and the tangible results from COP26 are tragic. I understand 100% why Greta Thunberg and Michaela Loach, why these kids are so upset, because first of all, if you just read the Glasgow Climate Pact, which is what they, came to at the end of COP26, the verbiage is vague at best. Everything is like, we're gonna research this, we're gonna look into this, we're gonna make a task force, and then we'll get back to you next year in Egypt. Guys,
I will say
no.
this. I will say this. And this was a huge issue I had with the Biden administration from the jump. A task force. We are so beyond task forces. We are so beyond studies. We are so beyond ambassadors and this is and that. We don't need that. The studies have been done.
Right.
The results are in. We are warming the planet at an exponential rate. And every time that we don't act, we are adding to the job loss. How are you going to deliver packages for your small business if the road is flooded? Or if there's an earthquake and the road is out? Or if the bridge collapses? Or if there's too much snow and trees just fall? There's so many things, and the infrastructure has to keep up with these things. And they were not built for the future that we have environmentally. They really just aren't. Extreme heat, extreme cold, extreme drought. You have to understand, we all adapt, our bodies adapt, but our infrastructure also has to adapt in the same way. And I don't think that we've put in what we really needed was $12 trillion to truly address our infrastructure, which has a D- rating. And we have, 1.2 trillion maybe or something like that. And only 500 billion of that is from new spending. Right. And the rest of it is from getting money back from states from COVID spending, which is ridiculous because we're still in the middle of a pandemic and those states need that.
Even if you look at the Build Back Better bill, if you look at the website, the government website on it, there are just like 3 little blurbs at the bottom of it, and that's it. Like, they don't really say too much about what they plan on doing for the environment, and a lot of it does have to do with the task force. It does have to do with like, oh, we're going to work on these things. This is not the time for that. So I think it's interesting that people like to try to compare Joe Biden to Roosevelt because like he did have he's like, oh, we'll make a climate corps, because and they can go out and they can work on things climate change related. First of all, Didn't Obama already say he was going to do that? Because he said, we're going to go out here, we're going to teach these coal people how to have green jobs. And literally all the coal people, you can see it on documentaries, there's plenty of people interviewed in West Virginia, and they said, would you take a different job if it was a green job? And they said, yeah, I mean, why not?
Of course.
Who the hell wants to work in a coal? I mean, you work in a coal mine. Of course I'd rather work on a different...
The fact that they even tried to get people to think that West Virginians, like, aren't interested in... raising the minimum wage, or interested in more a broader health care,
right, or climate change.
I mean, climate change and green jobs, of course, because they don't want to be saddled with the burden that they've been put on, that they've had to take on this health, all these health issues, and then basically they're abandoned. And I think that that's the biggest issue about just really talking about climate. When we're talking about this, listen, the Democrats are in charge. And I think that, if you're watching this, you think you're, I'm a tax-paying and responsible adult and I watch Jesse Dollemore, so I've got it together, okay? Yeah. But are you pissed off about what's happening with climate? Because quite frankly, from what I see it, is that, I mean, personally, I voted third party, but Joe Biden was supposed to be more competent on climate. And I frankly knew he wasn't going to be, because he's beholden to a lot of corporate interests. But I mean, right after COP26, he auctioned off 80 million acres in the Gulf to drill. How is that helping?
How is that helping? I mean, John Kerry, in his speech about his closing remarks of COP26, he specifically talked about subsidies, and he said, oh my God, we cannot be giving subsidies to these companies because that's insane. We're shooting ourselves in the foot, basically. And meanwhile, they gave, I think, $5.8 trillion, some crazy amount of subsidies to, natural gas, coal, and oil.
Think about the amount of money that's gone to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk going to the edge of space.
Right.
Not to the moon, not into space, to the edge of space.
So I will also say this. Don't let them fool you to think that electric cars are going to save us. The average American already has a car and cannot afford to buy a new car. Average American, okay? We're not talking about, people who are making, first of all, even if you're making $200,000 a year, you're still working, so you still are kind of technically working class. Don't think of yourself as being something other than.
Well, let's say you have a kid, let's say you have student debt, let's say you have a car payment. I mean, there's a lot of things.
But
healthcare.
Don't let them fool you into thinking that electric cars, and by him saying, oh, we're gonna put in so many electric charging stations and all of that. Electric cars are not that simple, guys. And it's interesting that they've chosen to give so much money to Tesla to develop these things, because it's like they're putting literally all of their eggs into this basket. Why are they not out here? Why are they not pounding the pavement, going to every single house and saying, you know what? Looks like you're south facing. You want some solar panels on that house?
Solar.
Hello? I mean, there are so many things that we could be doing that are being done in other countries, I think, that can't be solved by these little fixes that they're trying to do.
But a lot of it is opt-in as well. I mean, solar obviously is offered, but you have to opt in. And you have to understand that, okay, I'm a working class person, I'm going to my job, I've heard about solar, but, we don't have time for, somebody to come to your door and knock. We need, basically just like with voting rights, we need to just, okay, you have a house, you need this much solar power and we're going to give it to you, or we'll give you this much in tax rebate and that's it, done.
It needs
already
to be
decided.
macro level.
Yeah, exactly. It needs to be that way and just built into the culture, because otherwise, obviously capitalism reigns, and so people might not choose solar as their first option. But truly, with as much as we're facing with the climate, solar is one of the best things you can have, I think, in terms of having a backup generator. If you had a big backup generator powered by a solar that was storing up energy and then the power went out for some reason, that's going to be a great way to save yourself.
Do yourself a favor and look into Earth ships, okay? Because... Let me just tell you.
We're trying to go into an Earthship internship, but that's for a different day. For today, we're just leaving you with that little, just think about that.
Just look into it and think about why just look into COP26 and what they have and haven't done. We'll put up this article from The Nation. I think it's a really great article where she really breaks down what was and wasn't done and what was and wasn't promised. We haven't even gotten into the point of the reparations that they should be paying to countries who have not been polluting because they're not industrialized. They haven't even gotten a chance to get to where we are in our pollution level. And they didn't talk about the military. There's just a lot of things, a lot of things that were not discussed. And if you are serious about climate change, you need to be serious about the urgency, and you need to be serious about what can actually be done. Like, things can be done. Don't let them fool you into thinking that, like, oh, we got to have a vote and we got to do this and that. No.
Let's make some executive orders. Let's get and really set. And this is like one of the biggest, I think, issues that I saw with the infrastructure bill, and also with the language in the BBB, is that a lot of things are opt-in, a lot of things are rebates, a lot of things are credits. There's not penalties for lead pipe changing. It doesn't say by this date, all of these pipes must be changed or you are penalized. Right. No, it's an opt-in program where then you can get money in order to change the pipes. All of the time. You cannot do that for a company where capital reigns, okay? And if we're going to be serious about climate, and you think, I guess the biggest point of this video that we want you to get out of it is that if you believe in the science and you follow the science, you have to understand that there's urgency underneath that. Otherwise, all the articles you read, all of the things that you're pushing, none of it matters.
All the recycling you're doing doesn't matter.
No, not at all. No. And so I think, let's not just rest on our laurels for the fact that Democrats are in, okay? Right. Because there are a lot of things that they're dropping the ball on. The Gulf of Mexico, a lot of oil spills that we, the taxpayers, are paying for. Right. So, these are really important issues where you can't just say, oh, the good guys are in, so it must be taken care of. No, that's when you've got to be more stringent, because isn't that your opportunity to make sure that actually some real change is done? And right now, from where I sit, the Biden-Harris administration is completely failing on climate and leading us into a very dark decade. And I think it's an absolute, it's just an abject failure. And it's not, if you have children, I feel honestly terrible about it, because this is a train we can't get off. No. And I think we've got to start being as loud as possible about how things have to change. Because there's no other way.
There really isn't. We're already inching up on 2 degrees, and with that, sad news. I've been Keisha. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at one of these Keishas.
And I'm Courtney. You can find me on Twitter at Courtney Banks, on Instagram at The Courtney Banks, and find us both on YouTube at The Banks Sisters.
The Banks Sisters.
We're sisters. We're real sisters.
We're in real life. Check out our podcasts. One is called This Is Bullshit. That's our political podcast. And we also have a podcast about Bravo and 90 Day Fiancé and all of that less stressful stuff called Bravo in Hell.
I hope they show Bravo in Hell.
Oh, I hope they show Bravo in Hell. Sorry, it's like I've...
Listen, we have a lot going on. You're thinking about climate. There's a lot of things to take into account right now.
Microplastics are probably rotting our brains.
That could be so. Listen, everybody try to stay safe, stay easy, and we will see you in the next video.
Bye, Jessie.
Bye.